this is going to be very powerful. I'm going to give you a tried and true proven method on how you can delegate with success and do it with love. The purpose of delegating is twofold. One, to make that task completely go away from you. If we've got processes in place and we've put them in place correctly, we're only going to have one of two challenges. This is how it goes away from you for good, and you still continue to deliver your same level of excellence. It's going to free you up in ways that you never thought possible. Welcome to the Leadership and Love podcast. We will cover leadership, mindset, personal development, and sales and marketing. You will experience thought-provoking conversations with both nationally and internationally recognized leaders. Our goal is to inspire you and deliver actionable items that you can implement that are going to help you accelerate your growth. Get ready to discover the magic and the power when you lead with love. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Leadership and Love. Today, I want to talk about delegating, and this is delegating with love for success. One of the things that's going to be important, regardless of whether you're an employee in a company or you're the owner of the company or you're a manager, this is going to be very powerful. There are only two, maybe three things that you do that bring the most value to the company. And what you want to do is focus the majority of your time on that. The way to do that is to delegate everything that's not in your zone of genius. So today, I'm going to give you a tried and true proven method on how you can delegate with success and do it with love. Leadership and love, that's what we're all about here. So let's jump right into this thing. There are 4 steps to delegate, and they're very, very simple, but they're going to take some time and some energy. Now, the first thing is to write the process. In today's world, I also use Loom videos, which are very helpful. But a written process, there may be some things that you may not be able to do on a computer or with a video. So a written process. By the way, if you're going to use a video, you want to make sure that you're formatting it from a written process, so it's going to have all the pieces and it goes away. The purpose of delegating is twofold. One, to make that task completely go away from you, and 2, get exactly the same result that you're getting now from you doing that task. Both of those are really important. The power of writing it is going to make it go away for good eventually, but this is not an overnight process. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by writing from A to Z every step that needs to be taken without fail. So the first thing you do is you write it. That's the first step. Or you record it. And remember, this process, whether it's a video or a written process, that's going to get you all the way to the end, which is going to get you the result. So I'll give you something easy like answering your phone. If you write a process on how you answer the phone and take messages, and then you pass that to your employee or somebody that's on your team, then what you can do is write it from the beginning to the end. How exactly do you want them to answer the phone? So for example, one of my companies, Sharp Auto Body, if you ever call Sharp Auto Body, you're going to hear somebody pick up the phone and say, "Thank you for calling Sharp Auto Body. We're a manufacturer certified body shop. This is Louie. How can I help you?" That happens every time. That's been trained with the process. If the person you want to speak to is not available, then they've got the same script where they're going to ask, "What's your first name? What's your last name?" and ask you to spell it so there's no errors. "What's your email address? What's your phone number? What's a message I can leave?" And then we have a process of how that goes on afterwards. So you can see at the end of the day, and this one might be a little harder to do on a video, but written out, it's got the exact script. And now this is also the power, while we're talking about this is the power of dual monitors. In all my companies, all the employees and myself have dual monitors. So on one monitor screen, I can have our process, whether that's a video or a written process. On the other screen, I can have the program that I'm working in or the client I'm working with. So that's very powerful to have dual monitors so they can keep this process in front of them. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things while we're still on the topic of the first step of the 4 steps to delegate. And that is that what you want to do is have your team and you understand that any process is never carved in stone. This is very, very important, because in today's world with technology and things changing, your processes are going to change too. This is why it's critical that everybody understands, one, they have the ability to edit and change them as things change, and if they can make them more efficient and remove steps, they have that power to change them, and so do you. So these things are never carved in stone. So now what you do is you write your process from top to bottom. That's step number 1. Step number 2, what you're going to do is you're going to test it. So you now have a process. What you do is you give it to somebody that probably won't be doing that task. And I can tell you, a teenager, like if you have somebody in high school, if you have young people on your staff, that's the perfect place to go test your process. And so what you want to do is give them the process and let them start from the top and go to the bottom. We're after 2 things. We're after, 1, can they get through it without having to stop and ask you any questions? If they have to stop and ask you questions, we have a process problem. We want to go back and clean up our process. If they get all the way to the end and they get exactly the same result, and so here's one for you parents, you could do this with your kids cleaning their bedroom, and you could have a process of exactly what they do. They pick up their dirty clothes, throw it in the hamper, they make their bed, they close all the drawers, nothing's on the floor. You can actually take a picture of that and put it in your process so they know what that end result looks like. If they get from the top to the bottom of whatever your process is, then you know you've got a good process. So that's step number 2, taken care of. You test the process to make sure somebody that hasn't been trained or doesn't have your knowledge can get through it. Remember, there's probably a bunch of things in your head that you automatically know and steps you might skip in this process of writing it. So again, you don't worry about being perfect that first time. You want to try and be as accurate as possible, but by testing it, we're going to make sure it's bulletproof. Because at the end of the day, when we're leading with love, we want to understand that if we've got processes in place and we've put them in place correctly, we're only going to have one of 2 challenges. We're only going to have people challenges or process challenges. And the beauty of this is it's going to be really easy quickly to figure out what's the challenge or the issue. Now notice I didn't use the word problem. Problem, people's brains lock up. Houston, we have a problem. Remember the movie Apollo 13? So you don't want to use the word problem. I like challenges or issues. So now that you've tested it and you know it works, the 3rd step is we're going to train it to agreement. When we train it to agreement, this might not happen in one pass. This might take 2-3 times. This might take a week. This might take 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the steps and the knowledge and the skill needed for a specific task, and also how complicated it may be. But what we're going to do is we're going to train it to agreement. Now, when we train it to agreement, we're going to get to the point where we say out loud to whoever we're passing the process to, a teammate, a coworker, somebody that's a report under us, a manager that we're training up as a leader, we're going to train them to agreement where we're going to say out loud, Louie, I've trained you on our process on how to answer the phone. Do you have any questions? No, sir, I don't. Do you need any more training? No, sir, I don't. Louie, do you understand here at The Gifted Leader, one of the things that we do is we run our organization with processes. Do you agree that when you answer the phone, you've been trained to use this process and you're going to use this process? Yes, sir, I agree that I'm going to use this process and I've been trained. Now we have accountability. Now I want to be careful with this thing called accountability. If you don't have it set up yet, you will need to set up a disciplinary policy. And a disciplinary policy is simply what's going to happen when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing. And this could be coming in late, this could be wearing the wrong things to work, this could be a myriad of things, not following the processes. We've trained it to agreement, which is step number 3. Now we can hold them accountable for it. You can't hold somebody accountable for doing a task a project or whatever it may be if they don't have clarity on how to do it and what the end result is we're after. And some of these may have deadlines, or they may be repeating tasks. But again, you got clarity and accountability. The fourth thing you're going to do is audit, AUDIT, audit it. So you're going to check on a regular basis initially. So you might check in, if I've trained somebody on how to answer the phone, I'm going to kind of eavesdrop on them answering the phone for the first day throughout the day. Second day, same thing throughout the day. Third day, I might check in the morning and in the afternoon. And then at some point, your audit starts to drop off when you know it's being completed. You're getting your end result with the process that you wrote. It's very, very powerful. It's very powerful. This is how it goes away from you for good, and you still continue to deliver your same level of excellence and client care and service that you did before. And keep in mind, we have internal and external clients. One of the things that's very powerful about processes is if we have the team working with processes, we now can guarantee the level of quality of the work that we're passing to our internal clients, other teammates, other departments, whatever that may look like. And so it's going to run like a well-oiled machine, because everybody's going to get the same results, the same information at the same timing on a consistent basis, because again, timing could be something that's put into the process, the when it needs to be delivered or completed. So that's the fourth thing, is you audit it. Now, before I move on to a couple of other things, what we really want to be focused on is the positive, not the negative. We want to reward and appreciate the behavior that we're looking for. This is going to get people to repeat that behavior. So you might, the second day or third day, you might appreciate, compliment, and acknowledge whoever you've trained this task to, and this could be your kids as well. You want to acknowledge that they're doing it the way the process states, they're getting the same result. You want to reward that over and over on a regular basis, because whatever you focus on, the positive in this case, you're going to get more of. They're going to understand this is part of the deal. This is how we do business at the company. This is how we do business in our house, whatever that may look like. And now you have that task where, again, it's gone away from you. Remember, you want to be focused on the 2 or 3 things that you do that bring you the most money the fastest. So the next thing I want to talk about in this delegating is that you want to be patient. Some of these things may take a while. One of the things that I often do if somebody falls off the path is I will come back to them and I'll ask, do you need more training? Is there anything that we could do to help you? Are you missing anything? Now, when I talk about missing something, I've built a template that's got all the steps. It talks about the scope of the process, got a list of resources that are going to need to be used for the specific task. It's going to state who's responsible for training it and following up on it to make sure it's completed. It's got a header where you can decide what department it's going in. You date it, when it was last written, who wrote it, who's approved it, when it was written. So I've got this very powerful template. And again, this template can be used for a video. So even if you're doing a video, you want to be clear, what department is this training video for? Who's responsible for training it? What are the resources? It might be a software program that you need to go into. It might be documents that you need from somewhere. It might be paper clips, whatever you need. It has to be that kind of detail so that whoever I've delegated this to, or if you've delegated it to me, I don't have to ask you any questions. And at that point, it's going to be really clear that this task will go away from you and you don't have to screw with it anymore. And at that point, you get to start focusing on the things that are your core genius. If you're an employee, this is hugely, hugely powerful. There's a story I share about a lady that went to her boss and said, hey, this is what I do for the company, and I can double my production, which will bring the company another $300,000 in business. If I double my production, will you double my income? And her boss said, yeah, that's a no-brainer. And she said, okay, I need you to hire me an assistant. She gave everything away to the assistant, and then she focused on those things that were bringing value, dollars, to the company. She doubled her income, but she also doubled her results, and so the company was happy to pay it. Very, very powerful. And I want you to know that you can delegate email. There's processes for that. I'm not going to go into that now, but you simply write rules of what somebody else can do with your email and which ones you have to handle and which ones somebody else can handle. So there isn't anything that you can't delegate. And you have the power and the ability to do it. And the sooner you start delegating, the faster and easier your life's going to be. Now, here's one of the things I want to share with you. There's a great book out there called The One Thing. If you haven't read it, I recommend it, but I can tell you in a nutshell, here's the premise. What's the one thing? What's the one thing that's going to move the needle the fastest, the furthest? I want you to think about the one thing when you write your first process. What's the one thing that if you delegated it to somebody else that would free up more of your bandwidth, would give you more time and more energy the fastest? That might be email. That might be answering your phone. That might be a myriad of things as well, but you want to go after what's the one thing that you're using or doing that is going to free up rather the most amount and bandwidth of your time as soon and as fast as possible. Now, once you get one thing down, keep in mind you can have a number of things that you're training going on at the same time, and you could be delegating things to different people. You just want to make sure you go through the 4 steps. You write it, you test it, you train it to agreement, and then you audit it. Audit it. So those are the 4 steps to delegate. Now, I've created this template that I've been using for years. What I'm going to do is if you go to thegiftedleader.com, it's all spelled out, thegiftedleader.com, and go to resources, you can get a copy of the template that is going to be a workable document that you can use and save, and you can fill in the blanks. You're also going to get these 4 steps that I just talked about. You'll be able to follow through. And then I'm also going to give you a document that's going to be fairly simple about discipline. But again, remember, we want to hold our attention to focus on what we want. And when somebody's doing what we want, especially with a new task and getting us that end result, we want to make sure we're rewarding that, acknowledging that, and appreciating it. Because remember, we're leading with love. And so when we lead with love, it gives us the ability to delegate. This is also going to make other people feel empowered, important. And remember, some of these things are very powerful because none of this is carved in stone. Here's one of the things that I want you to know as well that's going to be a really added benefit to a process, especially front-facing processes that deal with your clients and those people that you're serving. And that is that people really love it when they have an issue with your company and you tell them that you did this. And that is, whenever I've written a process and I get what I call proverbially bit and something goes wrong, the first thing I do is I immediately go back to my process and I edit it, change it, do whatever I need to do to that process so I don't get bit by the same bug a second time. This is powerful, powerful stuff if you put this in play and in action with your clients. If you have a client that calls you and they've had a challenge or an issue with your company, your service or your product, and they're not happy, one of the things that I love to do is, and now I do it from a place of honesty and integrity. What I do is I look back into my processes and ask where or what could we change to prevent this from happening. At that point, I go change a process. I'm going to give you a real life example again with the body shop because that's so easy. I had clients that would find my technician's tools in their car. Very expensive for the technician, but even more embarrassing to have somebody pick up their car and their tools were in it. So what I did was I went back to my quality control checklist for my technicians and I added that they have to check the vehicle to make sure all the tools are out of it. Now, the thing that really helps and really cements this client to you is you call the client up and you tell them, thank you very much for your feedback. I didn't know this was going on, but thanks to your feedback, I now have changed my process, and that's not going to happen for future clients, and I'm very grateful. If you want to, you can send them a gift card or a letter in the mail, a thank you letter, all kinds of things you can do, but I acknowledge that I heard them and that I've taken action on what happened to them so it doesn't happen to future clients. I can tell you that move alone has cemented some people to all my businesses for life. Very, very powerful, very powerful. I am telling you, this is game changing. Like I said, you can go to the website, thegiftedleader.com, and you can get under the resource tab, you'll find the documents I've been talking about. It's going to free you up in ways that you never thought possible. One of the things that I tell people when somebody hires me to do business consulting is that I have a money back guarantee. In 90 days, I'm going to increase your net profit by 10%, and I'm going to increase your time off by 20%. Here's one of the ways I increase their time off by 20%. I teach them how to delegate so it goes away from them for good. And then they get to work on the big boulders, the big tasks, the big projects. They get the most results, the most bang for your buck, the most, and most importantly, profit and success. So I hope you found some value out of this. Also, if you have questions or you have anything I could add to this in the future, I'm always open to learn from anybody and everybody. And if you have questions, reach out to me as well, because I'll be happy to help you navigate whatever you're struggling with. So this is the latest episode of the Leadership in Love podcast, and I really had a lot of fun doing this one. And I'd like to shout out to Jenny Lindquist, who's just this amazing rock star on the team who helps us with the podcast. She does all our video editing, and she's done videos for me. She's the one that took the videos that are the header and the footer that you see on the podcast. So Jenny, thank you. Thank you for lunch, and thank you for sharing this great idea with me. And it's one of those things, there's a lot of stuff I have in my head, and Jenny's just a wizard at pulling it out. And this is one of the things she pulled out, and she said, Louie, that should be a podcast. So thanks, Jenny. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again for joining us and listening to this episode of Leadership and Love. I would like to challenge you to ask yourself, what's one thing that you heard today that you can implement immediately to improve your leadership and accelerate your growth? If you've gotten value out of this episode or learned something that you can implement today, we'd ask that you please share it with those that you care about. Our goal is to create more leaders who are leading with love.